Hi, Vikram.
Hey, Matt. How you going?
Thanks for your time. I appreciate it. I know you're in Singapore at the moment. Um, what is it like doing the Chief HR Officer role of Toll at this point in time?
It's been a fascinating ride over here in the last few months. Matt, this is, Toll is a global logistics company. As you know, we've got about 45,000 employees with businesses in forwarding, logistics, and express. Big footprint in Australia, growing footprint in Asia, and then, a smattering of stuff in other parts of the world. A couple of things that have happened. One, it is an essential service, so it is playing a key role, but there's ups and downs that are, going on with some parts of the business. Groceries, when people started hoarding, when there were concerns with the COVID kickoff, at that point in time, groceries went through the roof, but then retail subsequently went through the floor. And, healthcare has generally stayed flat. Government and defense has been more or less flat, a little bit of growth. Essential services like, things like PPE and masks and sanitizers and that kind of stuff has gone through the roof. So there's a balance of different kinds of things. So in some places you feel you're doing a critical job, as an organization and making a difference to society. And then in other places, it looks like, oh my gosh, what's happened? But it's been a fascinating, set of experiences. The one piece I worry about the most is our employees are out, delivering stuff from warehouse to customer or sometimes to consumer, and it exposes them to a fair bit of risk. And so I always worry a little bit about that. And, people coming back home never know what they're bringing back home with them. And that's always the risk, and we worry about that. But, and then that goes in across the entire organization, not just home. So safety has been, important for us all the way through when you have trucks on the road all the time, but it's gotten even more heightened. So that's just kind of something that's come out front and center for us. The experience itself, dealing with so many people all over the world, you never know where you're going to have issues, because you see the US kind of going out of control at some points in time. You see other places in the world relatively balanced, and you something's going to happen, because the reality is your population, your workforce is going to follow the trends more broadly of the geography they operate in. So safety, that's been a big one. We've had some interesting experiences through all this, but the leadership has pulled together really well. I've been really impressed by the way the workforce has really pulled together and done a really good job. So it's been a great experience, trying, challenging, but also fulfilling.
What do you think has been the essence of keeping the leadership team aligned, focused, and supported? Because I'm sure the impact that can be made through the organization around the priorities really hinges on everyone at the top being aligned.
So, interestingly, at the beginning of this year, we had a change in leadership, and one of the things our new MD started driving in a big way, which really helps the function, is a drive towards a change in culture. And so we're going through this huge transformation of a company that was made up of 114 different integrations and acquisitions over a period of time that didn't get properly integrated operationally, technologically, or culturally. And so how do we drive a common set of values as the baseline? So that has been one of the key things that has got the team aligned. And that helps us from an HR perspective, where it doesn't look like HR is driving an agenda for culture, but the leadership is. And so some of the values that we've put out there, besides focusing on the customers as a critical one, because that's the reason they're here, because of them we exist. Otherwise, we have no need to. The teamwork piece, collaboration piece, the accountability piece, having a progress mindset, and of course driving integrity. And when you look at the teamwork and accountability piece, it's about being accountable, not just to our superiors or leaders in the organization, but to ourselves and to our teams, keeping people safe. And again, not just ourselves, but everyone around us, including our customers, making sure that we work together for the common good of both the organization, the people, and the customer. And so when we drive those sort of things, it is natural that leaders either get engaged or they get completely disengaged. And so we've seen a little bit of that. And we've come to a point where everyone's aligned towards doing the right thing. And that's really important, because if you don't have that alignment, you can't drive it in the organization. You know, it's like, do as I say, don't do as I do, you know, nobody's going to follow you. So that's, it starts at the top. It starts right at the top. And we're trying to drive that all the way through the organization. So the alignment comes from there. And it's going, I'd say, fairly well. And we're building it into the organization piece by piece. As you know, culture change takes about anywhere between 24 to 36 months at the very least for it to get embedded. We're in the first 6 months of our journey in the midst of COVID. So, so it's going to be an interesting ride. And, but that's driven by the team, the leadership getting aligned and knowing what their priorities are. We've got to make sure we serve the customer. We've got to make sure we keep them safe. We keep our employees safe. We deliver what we have to deliver and what we've committed to. And we do it in a safe and a consistent manner. So that's kind of the way we're approaching it.
How has the response, do you think, by human resources to people's overall lives changed through this period, as opposed to the past where people came to work to do a job? We were aware of aspects of their personal lives, and sometimes that would play into performance on job. But now we're acutely aware that everyone is going through a lot of transformation in their personal lives, but we still need performance at work. How do we get this alignment?
So, it's been a fascinating ride that way, because right now there's this big question that's coming about, is the office really critical? Everyone's working from home and they're working effectively. So is the physical office space really relevant? And people are doing it quite comfortably too. There's a mix, but quite comfortably. So let me maybe try and talk to the idea of the office space, and then talk about the role that HR is playing over there and how we are approaching it. Personally, I don't think that the office is going to be irrelevant. It's still going to be out there. Maybe the quantum of usage will change, and there'll be a shift of how we approach them, but they will still be relevant. The operations and manufacturing sites, etc., remain largely as they are. But the office, the head office, and more of those sort of spaces will probably undergo a fair bit of change. People come to organizations for different reasons, Matt. Social interaction, the interpersonal connection, a sense of belonging. Even if it's socially in a socially safe or distant sort of environment, there is a need for that. People want to belong, and they want more than a job. The intellectual stimulation, exchange of ideas, problem solving. Professional dialogue typically is more rewarding when it's done in person rather than remotely. And there's always the need for a huddle, and you get better and quicker results when people are together. People also come to the office for purpose, and culture. A common purpose often gets the best results, and gets people more strongly, get them to work better together, right? When they work side by side, they do things that are meaningful to them collectively. It builds camaraderie, trust, partnership, and a common way of working that defines organization culture, which is defined by both employees and leaders. And things like trust and teamwork and empathy and respect get built more and more when people work together, in close proximity to each other. And the office creates that sort of a platform. And that culture then either in turn attracts and retains, or otherwise, good talent to the organization. Getting together in the office also drives engagement, also drives boundaries. So getting new employees on board, getting new customers on board, works better when there's more interaction. And then, especially in the recent past, the boundaries that have more recently gotten blurred between home and work. When you step out of home and go to the workplace, it does create clearer and cleaner boundaries, such that people can step out, they leave home behind, they go to work, they leave work behind, go home. There's a change of scenery, there's a little bit of movement. It does impact both the well-being and the moods of people. So, from that perspective, my take is the workplace is here to stay. And then we've got to make sure we create it and make sure it's relevant in the way that people see it and utilize it. From an HR perspective, if you take it back, we've got to keep that place safe, and we've got to make sure our employees and even their families are safe, because it's all intertwined. If one gets ill, it has a compounding and an interdependent impact on the other and the next, and which in turn then to the broader workforce and society in general. And the risks that we have today are far beyond just the physical. There's emotional, there's economic, there's social, there's mental. From things like job loss risk to COVID risk, and then wondering whether I'm safe, not safe. So there's always this thing that's nagging at the back of your mind. So if I was to start with the physical safety piece, our role as HR and related leadership, we need to ensure that our employees are made suitably aware and follow various safety protocols to keep themselves, their families, our customers, and the people that they interact with safe. If we have a COVID positive case, for instance, the person goes for treatment, anyone in contact in the recent few days needs to be self-isolated, and the site needs to be deep cleansed. So it gets shut down, gets deep cleansed, or at least that section gets shut down and deep cleansed. For the employee, from a social responsibility perspective, we can and we should provide a place that they can step away if they need to, as and when they can. And we also need to help them adapt to the new environment, be it at home, be it in the workplace, and give them the relevant tools to do so effectively. It's not just the physical piece. It's also getting them up the change curve and making sure that they understand why that's the case. We have people who say, I have 3 kids at home, I don't want to come into the office. So understanding the family context or the family perspective at home will also, and see how we can help. For example, you have multi-generations living under the same roof, maybe in a small apartment, kids going to school at the same time. You have technology challenges, and then conflicting priorities of all people staying together. School holidays, TV's on, kids are making a racket, and a conference call's going on. How do we make it work, right? And this was not the case before. So we end up stepping on each other's toes and each other's spaces. So how do we make it that we let them know it's okay that these sort of things happen, and give them some flexibility? We've got to make it more conducive. We can't solve for everything, but we've got to make sure we are equally balanced and equally open-minded in what we expect from employees. Because it does start to creep into the workplace and the home. And the reality is it has an impact on the family and on the larger scale society, in general. And we have to help manage these boundaries. After all, we are the ones who are causing the intrusion. We are stepping into the home by making people do work from home. And so how do we work these constraints, not disrupt the family till such time that they can come into the office? So can we give flexibility to manage things the right way? And then the third piece really is about the well-being support, where we have a well-being team that reaches out and stays in touch with our employees, focusing on the ones that are at some sort of risk or more at risk. And this often goes beyond the employees. It touches family members, it touches other people impacted. And our observation, at least my observation, is that the mental well-being needs are on the rise. With people being confined to their homes, people being infected by COVID, not knowing what's going to happen, people in self-isolation, which they are not used to, locked in, and the anxiety of this unknown enemy, which can strike any time from anywhere. And then the final piece is my job at risk? So, we all have a role to play, but it's not us alone. Leaders play a key role, governments and other stakeholders also have a role to play. Everyone has to come together to make it work. And like all other challenges, this too shall pass. But in the meanwhile, we need to ensure we don't try and solve everything, that will just get us frustrated, and focus on the critical, stay strong, stay focused, and stay safe. So, a long answer to a short question, but a lot of things that are going on. So.